Today we're going to talk about the 4 different types of associations. There's a planned unit development, there's a condominium, there is a mixed use, and also a co-op. We're going to start today looking at what's considered a planned unit development, a PUD, a planned community, townhome. There's lots of different titles. Single family association would be another one, but these are what's called a planned community. And this is the classic example of a typical townhome community. These are quad homes. So one of the things that makes a townhome a planned community is who owns what. So in this particular case, typical townhome, the homeowner owns everything inside the walls of their unit. The association owns everything outside of that unit boundary. So the common area is the association's. So a lot of times a homeowner says, I want my tree trim to replace. Well, guess what? It's not your tree, it's the association's tree. So in a typical townhome association, it's about maintenance, right? So the associations are responsible for everything outside. They're responsible for removing the snow. They're responsible for cutting the grass, maintaining the trees, maintaining the structure of the building. All of the other common elements that might be a part of a townhome community, which might be signage, it might be cluster mailboxes, it might be a pond, it might be a monument, it might be large retaining walls, are all examples of things in a townhome association that the association would be responsible for. And that's the difference with a planned community and a townhome. And one of the important things to understand in these planned developments, these planned communities, common interest communities, is that there's nothing common about them. So we talked about a typical townhome a minute ago, but right now this is the same association with a different type of unit or a different type of home within it. These are twin homes. And the major difference with this is who owns what again. So unlike the townhome that we just looked at where the association common area was everything outside of the building, in these twin homes, the owner, their lot actually includes all of the grass and everything outside of the building. So very different. However, the association is still responsible for all of the same maintenance. So the association still plows the driveway, they still cut the grass, take care of the trees, takes care of the exterior of the building. But the owners own everything outside of, because that's how the county draws their lot. So it's just different. So the governing documents are going to dictate how that then is managed and how it's governed. So in this association, it has 2 different product types that has to be managed in a little bit different way. So again, another example of how there's no common thing in a common interest community. The next type of association that we're going to talk about is a condominium association. Now, a condominium association might be what you visualize, a high-rise building with units that are stacked on top of one another. Condominiums have all sorts of shared space, common elements, common areas that we're going to talk about. So some associations, this one in particular that we're in today, has a lot of different amenities. They have an outdoor swimming pool and walking paths. They have underground parking garage. They have a community room that residents can use for events and parties. They have a library, and they have a fitness center. In a condominium association, one of the most important things to understand is the difference in how things are owned. Previously, we talked about a planned community that the association owns the common areas, the homeowner owns everything inside their unit. Here in a condo building, certainly the homeowner owns everything inside the finished walls of their particular unit. But when it comes to the common areas and the common elements and all those amenities that we talked about, owners own a percentage of it. So in the declarations of the association's governing documents, typically there's an addendum or an exhibit it's called that's going to list the units within the condominium association and the percentage of ownership. And that percentage of ownership is typically based on the square footage. So the person in the penthouse that has 2,000 square feet is going to pay more and own more of the common area and common elements than the person on the first floor in the studio apartment. That just makes sense, it's equitable. So it's important to understand those differences of ownership. In a planned development, association owns all common areas and common elements. In a condominium, all of the owners in the building own a percentage of it. Still governed and controlled by the board, but the ownership percentage is broken out differently. So the last and final point on condominium associations is just to bring home the point that no two are alike. There's no common and common interest community when it comes to condominiums. Sometimes a condominium is actually a townhome association as it's defined in its governing documents. So when you hear the word condominium, don't automatically assume it's what we talked about today with a shared building with all sorts of common areas and common elements. So just be sure to read your governing documents on what it's defined as, a condominium or a townhome. So the next type of association that we want to talk about is what's considered mixed use association, a mixed use building. Now these are becoming more and more common as new buildings are going up today. Typically what a mixed use building is usually a commercial space on the bottom floor by like a high rise or condos on the top floor. So you see this particularly in urban areas where maybe you have a coffee shop on the lower level or office space on the lower level and then homes stacked above. Becoming more and more common, it certainly adds a layer of difference in governance and how they're run because now you have to share cost with particular commercial space or whatnot. So the last type of associations that we have to talk about today is the cooperative or the co-op. Now this is a very, very different type of an association. The main difference in a co-op is in the ownership. So in a co-op, in a cooperative, a resident doesn't own real estate or doesn't own the unit. Rather, the resident is a shareholder, a stockholder in the entity of the co-op as it is. Now, when it comes to the management and the governance of a cooperative, it's very much the same thing as an association. You have a board of directors that makes decisions, you have a set of bylaws and governing documents that dictate how things are going to be operated and run. But the main difference in a cooperative, again, is the ownership of real estate. Doesn't exist. So hopefully you found it helpful looking at the 4 different association types that we've covered: the planned communities, such as a single family or a townhome community, a condominium association, a mixed use association, which is a combination of perhaps commercial and residential, and then the one we just covered now, the cooperative. Lots more videos at sharpermanagement.com in our educational video library. Check them out. Thanks for watching.